Welcome back for the closing session. We are going to first start with Mr. Diego Solana Gimenez, who is a lawyer and foreign affairs international advisor from the World Jurists Association, headquartered in Spain. He will be giving us a brief introduction to the World Jurist Association and an invitation to the World Law Congress 2025, which I have had the opportunity and the privilege to attend in New York last year. I must say it is one of the best organized and well-attended internationally law conferences I've ever been to. I will welcome Mr. Solana to give us a brief introduction to the conference and to his role in the World Jurist Association. Thank you.
There is still hope that humanity will live in peace and freedom if, only if, we all accept a world ruled by laws and not by force, not ruled by ideology, a party, or an autocrat. That world is still achievable and requires our faith, work, and loyal commitment. This is a quote from probably what I believe was the most important president, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States, Chief Justice L. Warren. It was said on Athens, 1963, during the first World Law Congress. Chief Justice L. Warren, with the president of the American Bar Association at the time, Charles Ryan, decided during the Cold War years to mobilize the whole international legal community with a simple but very meaningful mission: to promote peace through law and to promote rule of law as the only alternative to a rule of force. They decided to create the World Jurist Association that I am representing today and organize a legal Davos, the most significant gathering of international jurists from all over the world. As a matter of fact, at the peak of the Cold War years, they decided to invite chief justices of Russia, China, general prosecutors, and it's really the World Law Congress. And on 2025, as Sulema was saying, on March 2025, we're going to organize the next World Law Congress, and Santo Domingo, the capital of the Dominican Republic, will become the legal capital of the world for a few days. I would like to extend you all an invitation, because I have to tell you that after a couple of days here in this beautiful city of Lahore, and learning about the extraordinary legacy of Asma Jahangir, that I had read about her, but I didn't know that she had so much impact in so many people, including myself. And I also didn't know the approach of Southeastern Asia to human rights. So I think that the world needs to know more about you and about this extraordinary foundation and what you guys are doing here. So you are all invited on March 2025 to the World Law Congress in the Dominican Republic. I hope to see you all there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Diego Solana, the Lawyer and Foreign Affairs International Advisor, World Jurist Association, Spain. And I'd now like to welcome all of you to the closing session of the Asma Jahangir Conference 2024. And before we do that, there is a video that we would like to play. But before we play the video, we would like to welcome our honorable guests. They need no introduction. The chief guest, former Prime Minister and Senate Chairman, Janab Yusuf Raza Gilani, Nasreen Azhar Saiba, who's Women Actions Forum founding member and a Vice Chair of the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan, Mr. Akhtar Hussain Saab, who is an advocate, senior advocate, the Supreme Court Bar Association, Supreme Court of Pakistan, and also he is the president of the Awami Workers Party. We have Mr. Farooq, Senator Farooq Hamid Naek, who is the chairman, Executive Committee, Pakistan Bar Council, and a former law minister. We have Syed Ali Zafar, Senator and former Federal Minister of Law and Justice. we have Yasin Azad, the former president of the Supreme Court Bar Association. Before we proceed, we would like to show you a video and then go back to the closing session.
Peace through law. During the Cold War years, faced with the threat of a nuclear holocaust, a few good men set in motion a singular initiative in favor of peace. It was July 1957 when, on the occasion of a gala hosted in London in honor of the American Bar Association, its president, Charles Rhine, the Chief Justice of the United States, Earl Warren, and Sir Winston Churchill agreed to create a program to promote world peace through law, the rule of law against the use of force. It's at that moment they decided to launch what would later be called the World Jurist Association. Years later, in 1963, Charles Rhine and Earl Warren, in their tireless struggle for human rights, inaugurated in Greece the first World Congress of Law. Numerous presidents of Supreme and Constitutional Courts from different countries throughout the world, general attorneys, egregious lawyers, and eminent professors, a group of more than 3,000 jurists centered around a single purpose, defined by President Kennedy in his message to the Assembly. It gives me great pleasure to send greetings to the First World Conference on World Peace through the Rule of Law. This conference represents 5 years of effort and brings together lawyers and judges from overseas from 100 countries in the attempt to develop and strengthen the legal machinery that must form the basis for peaceful relations among all nations. 2 years later, Lyndon B. Johnson inaugurated the Second World Congress in Washington, whose organizing committee was chaired by Presidents Truman and Eisenhower. 25 more assemblies of this kind, organized by the World Jurist Association, have taken place since then in various countries worldwide. Thousands of men and women united in this formidable association to promote peace through law throughout the world. Three world statesmen were also honored years ago with the World Peace and Liberty Award. Sir Winston Churchill, René Cassin, father of the UN Declaration of Human Rights, and Nelson Mandela. In Madrid, within the framework of the 26th World Law Congress, the largest association of jurists in the world, King Felipe VI of Spain is awarded the World Peace and Liberty Award for his defense of democratic and constitutional values that has presided over the 40 years of greater freedom and prosperity throughout the history of his country.
In February 2020, the World Jurist Association and the World Law Foundation, chaired by Javier Cremades, present the World Peace and Liberty Award to US Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Upon the passing of the US Supreme Court Associate Justice, the World Jurist Association, along with Professor Jane Ginsburg, decided to confer the Ruth Bader Ginsburg Medals of Honor to female jurists who have promoted the rule of law and gender equality throughout their careers.
For the first time, this award, that many consider the Nobel Prize of Law, is not given to a person. The World Jurist Association awards to them the World Peace and Liberty Award as its 2021 World Law Congress. Congratulations, people of Colombia.
For 60 years now, the WJA has worked to strengthen the rule of law around the globe so we can build a peaceful, more inclusive set of societies where the rights of all are respected.
Freedom, equality, rule of law. But that's what you're trying to do. And that's what you've been trying to do in this organization for quite a few years.
5 outstanding women will be receiving the Ruth Bader Ginsburg Medals of Honor.
It's a function of the World Jurist Association to recognize the activities of members of the judiciary in favor of fundamental rights around the world.
Andrew Young is a powerful voice of peace.
I want to thank you for your faith in justice and your willingness to work for peace.
On behalf of the World Jurist Association, welcome again to New York.
What an honor to receive this award on behalf of the European Commission.
This is a consequential moment, and it calls for thoughtful leadership and strong institutions.
Please accept from me, from my colleagues on the court, and from my family, our deepest thanks for this splendid award. It will inspire me. It will inspire me in my remaining years to find new avenues, new ascents, new aspirations, new adventures on the path to the rule of law.
In 1963, he started practicing law in his hometown of Sacramento, California. The same year, Earl Warren, one of my predecessors as Chief Justice of the United States, helped lead the inaugural Congress of the WJA. Tony Kennedy became a judge 12 years later, in 1975. And over nearly a half-century on the bench, he has exemplified commitment to the highest ideals of the law.
Judges, lawyers, academics, officials, and professionals from all over the world will come to the Dominican Republic to share their knowledge and experience. And we want you to be one of them. So join us. We're waiting for you. Dominican Republic, world capital of law and justice.
Well, thank you very much for all of you for joining us today. And as usual, we thank Lahore. It's always been a generous host to the ASMA Jahangir conference, and without your support and your participation, हम ये कॉन्फ्रेंस हर साल इस तरीके से नहीं कर सकते. हमने वेन्यूज़ बदले हैं, मगर आप हमेशा आपने हमारा साथ दिया और आप आए, इसका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. इससे पहले कि मैं जो अपने मोअज़्ज़ज़ मेहमान हैं और आप उनको सुनने आए हैं, आप इससे पहले कि मैं उनका तारुफ़ कराऊं और हम उनसे भी बात करें, मैं आज जो टॉपिक्स है उसके ऊपर कुछ बात आपसे करना चाहती हूँ. कुछ अंग्रेज़ी में करूँगी, कुछ उर्दू में करूँगी. सो अलाउ मी दैट. एंड आई वांट टू कंक्लूड बाय सेइंग दैट द ASMA Jahangir conference is now being referred to the People's Assembly. And over the years, the ASMA Jahangir conference has now become the largest human rights and legal gathering in Pakistan, with this year's edition promising to uphold the people's mandate on civil rights in South Asia. We had over 22 sessions, over 80 speakers from all across the world, from India, from Palestine, from the United Nations, from the EU, from the UK, from 100 and almost over 140 female lawyers participated in the conference. Some came from Turbat, koi Gilgit se aaya, कोई वज़ीरिस्तान से आया, और उनका रंग देख के ही ऐसा लगा कि हमारी कॉन्फ्रेंस का रंग जो है वो बहाल है. Ambassadors from more than 12 countries attended this conference. We were very fortunate that we had some of the most noted Palestinian rights activists that came all the way to attend this conference. They're right here. One of them is right here, sitting right beside us, and we welcome you, and we are thankful that we had the privilege to hear from you in person. It's not quite the same when it's virtually done, and it's much better that we hear from you, and we had that privilege. So we are very grateful to that. We stand in solidarity with the people of Palestine who have faced the worst form of human rights abuse we have seen in the recent past. We call upon an immediate ceasefire and accountability of Israel, who has indulged in war crimes. We call upon international community to urgently provide the humanitarian assistance the Palestinian people are in need of in Gaza and in the rest of the occupied territories. Despite all the controversies attached to this election, there is an elected parliament and government now. We have great expectation from our elected representatives that they prioritize restoring the fundamental rights of all citizens lost during the recent years. There needs to be a beginning of a dialogue between all political forces between governments and parliament and provinces to reach an agreement that they will rely on people's mandate for support instead of turning to unrepresented forces. A charter of democracy was reached in the past between two major political parties in 2006, and that for the first time we realized that they had understood the importance of democratic dispensation after a very, very long military rule. The Charter of Democracy was not completely implemented, unfortunately, and that process needs to be taken forward with the participation of all political parties. I am speaking at a forum which is true to the values of my mother, Asma Jahangir. We believe that all political parties must come to a charter of fundamental rights for the people of Pakistan, and that process should be taken forward in Parliament. I would also like to say कि पिछले साल तुर्बत से हमारी बहनें, बलोच बहनें जो है वो बड़ा लंबा सफ़र करके इस्लामाबाद आई थीं, और हमने ये उम्मीद की थी, उस वक्त केयर टेकर गवर्नमेंट थी, इलेक्टेड रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स अभी तक नहीं आए थे, मगर हमें अफसोस के साथ कहना पड़ता है that nobody gave them even the dignity of a conversation. They at least, at the very least, deserved that. Not the politicians, and unfortunately not the judiciary that should have heard them. The Supreme Court has said more than once, and the Senate has said twice, that there should be legislation to determine the mandate of intelligence agencies, that those who make people disappear should be held accountable. Now, the people of Pakistan are looking towards their representatives, and we hope that they are looking at the people of Pakistan and understand that there are expectations of them once they have been voted in. हमारी एक बुनियादी तवक्को अदलिया से भी थी, और वो ये थी कि मज़लूम तबके का तहफ़्फ़ुज़ वो करेंगे. अभी भी हमें हमारी अदलिया से उम्मीद है. Judiciary should declare all legal process that are extra constitutional, and it should declare that they are extra constitutional, the ones that are extra constitutional. And Parliament must resist giving legal cover to extra constitutional measures weakening the rights of people. The laws that need to be reformed and strengthened are the action in aid of civil power, which must be struck down. ये कैसे हो सकता है कि पूरा खैबर पख्तूनख्वा बुनियादी इंसानी हकूक़ से जो है बिल्कुल महरूम रहे. उनके भी फंडामेंटल राइट्स हैं, उनकी भी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोटेक्शंस हैं, और एक्शन इन एड ऑफ सिविल पावर की वजह से वो उनको नहीं मिल रहे. जो कलोनियल एरा लॉज हैं, जिस तरह के सेडिशन, उनकी कोई जगह नहीं होनी चाहिए आज के पाकिस्तान में, एक जमहूरी पाकिस्तान में. It is up to the Parliament to remove an abusive law that undermines the rights of people. Citizens should only be tried through normal legal systems and processes. Military trials civilians के नहीं होने चाहिए. चूँकि ये अदम एतमाद है मौजूदा जुडिशल सिस्टम पर, इसका मतलब ये है कि जो मौजूदा जुडिशल सिस्टम है उसके ऊपर आपका कोई कॉन्फिडेंस नहीं है. दूसरी तरफ ये फेयर ट्रायल के तमाम तकाज़े पमाल करता है और शहरियों को बुनियादी हक से महरूम करता है. इसीलिए फिल फॉर मिलिट्री ट्रायल्स सिविलियंस के, पाकिस्तानियों के ख़त्म होने चाहिए. All restrictions on the mainstream and social media should be lifted so that the people's voices is heard and there is transparency and accountability of power holders in all institutions. जो एक एक्स पर बंदिश लगी हुई है, हम वो चाहते हैं कि वो ख़त्म हो, ताकि जो हमारा नौजवान तबका है वो डिजिटल पाकिस्तान का ख्वाब फिर से देख सके. All restrictions on communications, including the internet, should be removed. They serve no purpose in a civilized society and undermine the legitimacy of state institutions. There are many, many, many dark spots across Pakistan, and those are in those areas which are considered the most marginalized, in Waziristan, in Gilgit-Baltistan, in Kashmir, and the youth there want to realize their potential. If these remain, there can be no economic progress in Pakistan, and the promise of a digital Pakistan would be hollow. All laws protecting journalists should be strengthened, and those restricting freedom of expression should be reformed after a meaningful consultation with stakeholders. Pakistan has had 2 successive disputed elections in 2018 and 2024. Unless the people mandate is protected, political polarization will undermine the state, its institutions, the economy, and the lives of Pakistani citizens. To be credible, all elections should be held in a transparent manner and without any interference by the security agencies. But credible elections also demands that fundamental rights are not abused for political purposes. Strengthening of the constitution system is the only way to save this country from becoming a failed state. And all 3 branches of state, legislature, executive, and judiciary, must play their part in protecting the constitutional system, as there is no other way forward. Elections हुए और हमने देखा कि एक नई हुकूमत आई, और मेरा ख्याल है सब ने शुक्र किया कि मुंतखब नुमाइंदे वापस पार्लियामान के अंदर आए. मगर हम ये समझते हैं, और मेरी वालदा आसमा जहांगीर हमेशा कहती थी कि हमें तभी पता चलेगा कि जमहूरियत आई है जब वो जमहूरी तकाज़े पूरे होंगे और जमहूरियत जो है वो आम पाकिस्तानी भी महसूस कर सकेगा. वो तवक्को आज हमें अपने मुंतखब नुमाइंदों से है, और हम समझते हैं कि माजी में उन्होंने एक ऐसा प्लान बनाया था जैसे कि चार्टर ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी, जिसकी नतीजे में हम समझते थे कि मुल्क जो है वो जमहूरी राह पर गामज़न हो सकता है. आज भी हम ये तवक्को करते हैं कि आप पाकिस्तान को एक सिक्योरिटी स्टेट के पैराडाइम से निकाल के एक पीपल स्टेट बनाएंगे, और हम उम्मीद करते हैं कि चार्टर ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी के ऊपर बिल्ड करके आप पाकिस्तान के लिए एक नया चार्टर ऑफ फंडामेंटल राइट्स बनाएंगे, जहाँ पे हमारे यानी पाकिस्तानी शहरियों के जो बुनियादी इंसानी हकूक़ हैं वो हमारे आइन के मुताबिक महफूज रहेंगे. और हम ये भी आपसे इल्तिजा करते हैं कि जो कवानीन जो कंडीशनल हैं आज़ादी इजहार राय के ऊपर, आप उनके ऊपर फिर से गौर फिक्र करेंगे, और फ्रीडम ऑफ एक्सप्रेशन के ऊपर जो कदगनें लगी हुई हैं, जो कंडीशंस लगी हुई हैं, वो आप हटाएंगे. मैं आपका फिर से बहुत शुक्रिया अदा करती हूँ. हमारे सियासतदान जो हैं वो हमारी जमहूरियत का हुस्न है, वो हमारी उम्मीद हैं, और आज हमारी उम्मीद उन्हीं से लगी हुई है कि वो ही मामलात को ठीक करेंगे और हमें आगे जमहूरियत के राह पर फिर से गामज़न करेंगे. अब मैं दावत देती हूँ जनाब नसरीन अज़हर साहिबा को, जो विमेन एक्शंस फोरम की फाउंडिंग मेंबर हैं और वाइस चेयर हैं ह्यूमन राइट्स कमीशन ऑफ पाकिस्तान की. वो बैठे हुए भी बोल सकती हैं, और अगर इधर आना चाहें तो इधर भी आ सकती हैं.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening. I have the honor to speak at this conference. Asma was one of my old colleagues. I had the privilege of working with her many years, and she left us much too soon, and I think is missed by the whole country. I just want to make a few brief remarks. I want to say that, of course, political parties are the agents of change, as we all know. They have they mobilize people, they raise awareness, they draft the constitution, and they make policies and laws. But they face many impediments in our country. At least they have faced many impediments. at many levels, mainly from the intervention of the military, which has again and again intervened. From the earliest times, soon after Pakistan came into being, the Governor General, although he was a civilian, he dismissed the government, but behind him was the army chief, Ayub Khan. And after that, there have been 2 other martial laws, a total of, I think, around 31 years, Pakistan has been ruled by the military. And even when the military is not in power, they are there behind the scenes to exert pressure on political parties and the political government. The political parties, in spite of the many impediments and challenges, have managed to draft many, many very positive human rights laws, especially for women's rights and rights of the people. But they have always had difficulty implementing them for a number of reasons. The main reason being that because of the policies pursued mainly by military governments of encouraging from the first day after Pakistan was made, religious political parties, because they felt they were a counterpoise to Russian communism, and therefore all the progressive and left-leaning parties were banned, persecuted, jailed, and so I'm afraid what has happened. And then of course we became a party to the so-called Afghan Jihad, which again was a military decision, and because of that the country has become very, there's a lot of religiosity, and religious extremism has become a part of our daily lives, which is not how the country was in the beginning. I mean, I remember when I came to the country as a child, it was such a free place. There was tolerance. There were Parsi children in my school and Christian children in my school, and there were even a couple of Jewish girls. And we were all, were never so narrow-minded as we have become now. And political parties have had to face this religiosity when they make human rights laws. Especially laws for women have faced a lot of opposition from the religious right. And although they have passed the laws, but implementing them has become a problem. And also religious minorities have been given all the rights in our chapter in the Constitution of Pakistan. But implementing these rights are, again, a difficult problem because of the religiosity that has permeated society, because of a very narrow-minded understanding of the Islamic faith. Now, political parties have still tried in spite of all that, and we have a lot of faith in our political parties, as Munizae said, and I would ask our political parties that they should now think of representing the poor people, the mass of the people who elected them, and not just the elite. Because at the moment, that's what's happening. In fact, this is happening not only in Pakistan, but all over the world. I would request our political parties to represent the poor, to think of economic rights, because those are imperative. Unfortunately, the democracy has been weakened because of these interventions by the military, and the democracy that we have is struggling against tremendous challenges. But as far as democracy is concerned, I would like to conclude by saying democracy is in a mess all over the world. Unfortunately, the Western powers that rule the world today have forgotten international law. They've forgotten all human rights, and they have become subservient to billionaires for their own self-interest. Leaders in the West have, I'm sorry to say that. And there are 2 systems that prevail in the world today. There's socialism for the elite, and there's capitalism for the rest of the country. And I think it's about time that we had more emphasis on economic rights, because when there's social justice and economic rights, then it will be easier to safeguard civil and political rights also. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nasreen Azhar Sahiba. I would now like to call upon Mr. Akhtar Hussain, the advocate of the Supreme Court of Pakistan, member of the Judicial Commission of Pakistan, and president of the Awami Workers' Party.
थैंक यू मुनीज़े एंड सबसे पहले तो मैं इस कॉन्फ्रेंस के ऑर्गेनाइज़र का बहुत ममनून हूँ कि उन्होंने यहाँ ये इस मुल्क के 1 साल के बाद मुल्क के मसाइल के हवाले से, जो इस मुल्क की बका और उसके अवाम की तरक्की के हवाले से हैं और उनके बुनियादी हकूक़ के हवाले से हैं, ये कॉन्फ्रेंस मुनक़्क़द की। जनाब यूसुफ रज़ा गिलानी साहब और स्टेज पे बैठे हुए हमारे दीगर पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स और मुनीज़े, पहले तो जो इन्होंने अपना एक चार्टर पेश किया इस कॉन्फ्रेंस के बाद, मैं उसकी मुकम्मल तौर पर हमायत करता हूँ और तमाम वो जो मुतालबात किए रखे गए हैं पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स के लिए, और ये सेशन पर्टिकुलरली उन्होंने इस हवाले से रखा है जो तमाम कॉन्फ्रेंस के बाकी जो हमने 2 दिन तक सेमिनार्स किए हैं और मुबाहिसे किए हैं, उसके ऊपर के पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज़ का और पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स का रोल क्या है इस सिलसिले में। इन्होंने बात की है बुनियादी हकूक़ के लिए, फंडामेंटल राइट्स के लिए। तो मैं समझता हूँ कि सबसे पहला फंडामेंटल राइट तो राइट टू लाइफ है, और जब हम राइट टू लाइफ की बात करते हैं तो मैं समझता हूँ कि तालीम के बग़ैर, रोज़गार के बग़ैर और रहने की छत के बग़ैर कोई राइट टू लाइफ नहीं है। ये कोई राइट टू लाइफ ये नहीं है कि मुझे मुकदमा चलाए बग़ैर मुझे फांसी नहीं दी जा सकती। राइट टू लाइफ इंसान की एग्जिस्टेंस का और इंसान की तरक्की का राइट है। इसलिए जब हम तालीम के लिए बात करते हैं तो बाज़ चीज़ें तो इन्होंने कहा है कि जो हमारे फंडामेंटल राइट्स के चैप्टर में कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में दिया हुआ है, लेकिन बाज़ वो भी जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में नहीं दिए गए हैं या जिनके लिए लॉज नहीं बनाए गए हैं, तो तालीम के हवाले से तो आर्टिकल 25A दिया गया। लेकिन हमारी सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने एक जजमेंट में 100 मोटो नोटिस लिया था और उसमें उन्होंने पाकिस्तान के तमाम सूबों के अंदर डिस्ट्रिक्ट जजेस को अपॉइंट किया था कि वो अपने अपने अज़ला के अंदर तालीम की सूरत हाल के बारे में बताएं कि हमारे प्राइमरी और सेकेंडरी स्कूल्स उनकी क्या हालत है। तो उसको भी अगर आप देखें तो हज़ारों स्कूल जो है वो हमारे सुप्रीम कोर्ट की जजमेंट के रिकॉर्ड पर हैं कि जो जहाँ घोष स्कूल हैं या वहाँ बड़े बड़े ज़मींदारों के और जागीरदारों की औताक बने हुए हैं, या वहाँ जो टीचिंग स्टाफ है वो घोस्ट है, और आज भी 2 करोड़ से ज़्यादा बच्चे स्कूल से बाहर हैं। कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के फंडामेंटल राइट होने के बावजूद और सुप्रीम कोर्ट की डायरेक्शंस के बावजूद 2 करोड़ 30 लाख बच्चे स्कूलों से बाहर हैं आज। तो ये मैं समझता हूँ कि सबसे ज़्यादा तो हमारी पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज़ का और ख़ासकर पार्लियामेंट्री पार्टीज़ का ये रोल है कि किस तरह से उस सुप्रीम कोर्ट की जजमेंट को इम्प्लीमेंट कराएं और अपने फंडामेंटल राइट की आर्टिकल 25A पर अमल दरामद करें। जहाँ तक एजुकेशन उसका हेल्थ का ताल्लुक़ है, तो आप को पता है कि हमारे यहाँ हेल्थ के बारे में तो अभी तक फंडामेंटल राइट भी के चैप्टर में नहीं है, और हमारा बजट जो हेल्थ के बारे में है वो देखें तो 1% भी 0.97% हेल्थ का बजट है। किस तरह से इस मुल्क के लोगों को ज़िंदगी का हक़ और सेहत का हक़ जो है वो दिया जा सकता है। शेल्टर का तो नाम ही ना लें कि शेल्टर की क्या जो है वो यहाँ सूरत हाल है। तो मैं समझता हूँ कि इस मुल्क के अंदर जो है जहाँ आप ये सूरत हाल हो ज़िंदगी के हक़ की, तो वहाँ दूसरे और हकूक़ जो है क्या दिए जा सकते हैं। और इंसान की इसकी वहाँ देखें कि पावर्टी का जो हमारे पास रेशो है वो 39-40% बिलो पावर्टी लोग रहते हैं। तो लोगों के रोज़गार का हक़ जो है उसके हवाले से कोई बात नहीं करता। और अभी 2 दिन के बाद हम मे डे मना रहे हैं, जिस मे डे की एक कौमी तातील भी दी जाती है। लेकिन अगर आप ये देखें कि मे डे वालों ने जो 1886 में 8 घंटे की मेहनत के लिए जो है वो स्ट्राइक की थी और एजिटेट किया था, और उस जद्दोजहद के नतीजे में 8 घंटे काम करने का जो है वो बनवाया था। आज हमारे मुल्क में 12 घंटे 16 घंटे लोग मजदूरी कर रहे हैं। तो कहाँ गया वो हमारा ये हक़ जो एक सदियों की जद्दोजहद के बाद भी जिसका हम तातील मनाते हैं, लेकिन आज भी हमारे हुक्मरान और हमारी पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज़ और जो भी बरसरदार लोग हैं वो इस राइट को भी आज तक मनवाने के लिए जो है वो तैयार नहीं। माशी निज़ाम को देखें तो माशी निज़ाम किस किस्म का है। आज भी अगर हम बड़ी ज़मींदारी और जागीरी बाकियात में रह रहे हैं, जो हमारे मुख्तलिफ सेशंस के अंदर जो डिस्कशंस हुई हैं उसको ज़रा देखें आप कि उसके अंदर आज भी जो है वो, और पहले तो ये होता था कि वो ज़मीनों के साथ कुछ हमारे जो रिटायर्ड फौजी हैं उनको अलाटमेंट्स की जाती थी और वो एक तरह के प्रोटेक्टर बन गए हमारे एग्जिस्टिंग फ्यूडल और ट्राइबल स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ सोसाइटी के। और अब तो आप देखें कॉर्पोरेट फार्मिंग एक्ट आया है जिसके ज़रिए से आपने 90 लाख एकड़ ज़मीन आप फ़ौज को अलाट करते हैं और वो आगे ठेके पर देंगे कि वो आगे ठेके पर बैनुल-अक़वामी और कौमी कंपनियों को देंगे। किधर गया इस मुल्क का 53% जो रूरल पॉपुलेशन है और वो किसान है, वो हारी है, वो खेत मजदूर है, उसकी ज़िंदगी के बारे में क्या होगा? हम समझते थे कि उन सरकारी ज़मीनों को के ऊपर इज्तिमाई काश्तकारी होनी चाहिए, उनको कलेक्टिव फार्मिंग होनी चाहिए, उनके ऊपर कोऑपरेटिव फार्मिंग होनी चाहिए, स्टेट की जिम्मेदारी होनी चाहिए कि किस तरह से रूरल पुअर की ज़िंदगी को बेहतर कर सकें, जिसके बारे में कोई जिक्र नहीं किया जाता। आप ज़रा ये देखें उठा के, हमारी कोई एग्रीकल्चर पॉलिसी नहीं है इस मुल्क के। जो इकनॉमिक्स की बात हो रही थी पिछले सेशन में, उस के अंदर आप देखें कि एग्रीकल्चर के बारे में बिल्कुल कोई पॉलिसी नहीं है। लैंड रिफॉर्म्स को जो छोड़ दें, पॉलिसी कोई नहीं है। आप ज़रा लाहौर से ऊपर, वज़ीराबाद से ऊपर अप कंट्री में आप देखें तो स्कैटर्ड ज़मीन है, कंसोलिडेशन ऑफ लैंड भी नहीं है स्मॉल लैंड होल्डर्स की। तो कोई कमिटमेंट हमारे हुक्मरानों की इस मुल्क के अंदर ज़रई इस्लाहात के लिए या ज़रई पॉलिसी के लिए या ज़रई जो है वो सूरत हाल को और या रूरल पुअर की ज़िंदगी को बेहतर करने के लिए कोई नहीं। मिशन पसिंग के ऊपर हमने पूरा सेशन किया है। हमने जब वकालत शुरू की थी, फारूक नायक साहब हमारे सीनियर थे और उस वक्त जब अगर कोई आदमी गिरफ़्तार हो जाता था तो हम कहते थे कि यार 2-4 दिन देख लो, छोड़ देंगे सियासी कारकुनों को। लेकिन उसके बाद क्योंकि अगर हम पिटीशन फाइल करते थे तो उसका ये जवाब आता था, किसी ब्लाइंड FIR में उसकी गिरफ़्तारी शो कर देते थे कि बकरी चोरी में पकड़ा गया, किसी का अगवा में गिरफ़्तार हो गया तो ब्लाइंड FIR में उसको मुकदमे में इन्वॉल्व कर देते थे। लेकिन अब तो कहते हैं है ही नहीं, मिसिंग। प्रोविंशियल गवर्नमेंट कहती मिसिंग, फेडरल गवर्नमेंट कहती मिसिंग। अगर हम डिफेंस सेक्रेटरी को भी कोर्ट में बुलाते हैं तो मुझे तो जितनी पिटीशन फाइल हुई हैं उसमें डेड बॉडीज़ मिली हैं कि आखिर में आके डेड बॉडी मिलती है और कोई बंदा नहीं मिलता है। तो ये मुस्लिम पर्सन का, हमारे कल लॉ मिनिस्टर साहब कह रहे थे कि इसके लिए मुज़ाकरात की ज़रूरत है। मैं समझता हूँ मुज़ाकरात तो बहुत ज़रूरी हैं कि पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज़ के साथ, उन लोगों के साथ भी जो शायद आम स्ट्रगल कर रहे हैं, उनके साथ भी मुज़ाकरात करने वालों को करना चाहिए। लेकिन ये मुज़ाकरात पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज़ को उन अथॉरिटीज़ के साथ करना चाहिए, उस इस्टेब्लिशमेंट के साथ करना चाहिए जो इसकी ज़िम्मेवार है मिसिंग पर्सनस की, और अल्टीमेटली लोगों के साथ ये हो। तो मैं समझता हूँ कि ये बहुत सारे इश्यूज़ हैं। प्रेजेंट इलेक्शंस को आपने देख लिया कि भाई किस तरह से हुए हैं। इलेक्शन रिगिंग होती थी, अब तो ऑक्शन होता है। अब तो इलेक्शन ऑक्शंस हुए जो यहाँ पर लोग सारे रिपोर्ट्स कर रहे हैं। तो मैं ये समझता हूँ कि ये चीज़ें मैं सिर्फ 1 मिनट आपका लूँगा कि ये जो जजेस का मसला आया, बाज़ लोग कहते हैं कि जो 6 जजेस ने हमारे सुप्रीम कोर्ट के इस्लामाबाद हाई कोर्ट के जजेस ने ख़त लिखा। अब बाज़ लोग ये कहते हैं तनकीद करते हुए कि उन्होंने कंटेम्प्ट का नोटिस नहीं दिया। भाई कोई इंडिविजुअल इंटरवेंशन इन जुडिशल प्रोसेस नहीं है, ये कलेक्टिव है, ये जो है इंस्टीट्यूशनल इंटरवेंशन है। इसलिए उस इंस्टीट्यूशनल इंटरवेंशन के लिए उन्होंने ख़त लिखा। हमारी सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने एक फुल कोर्ट मीटिंग बुला ली और इसके अलावा इससे बेहतर नहीं काम हो सकता था। उन्होंने प्राइम मिनिस्टर को बुला लिया, फैसला किया प्राइम मिनिस्टर साहब से कहें कि प्राइम मिनिस्टर साहब उनसे जो ज़िम्मेदार हैं उनसे बात करें। प्राइम मिनिस्टर साहब ने कहा अच्छा एक कमीशन बना दें। उन्होंने एक कमीशन बना दिया। जो कमीशन जिन जज साहब का बनाया गया उन्होंने पहले एग्री किया और उसके बाद तनकीद हुई जब तो उन्होंने विड्रॉ कर लिया। सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने फिर सो मोटो ले लिया। लेकिन मैं ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि आप सुप्रीम कोर्ट से क्या हासिल करना चाहते हैं? मैक्सिमम सुप्रीम कोर्ट ये लेट डाउन करेगी कि ये अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल है। तमाम इदारों को अपने पैरामीटर्स में, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल पैरामीटर्स में रहना चाहिए। और अगर फिर लाइबिलिटी, क्रिमिनल लाइबिलिटी आती है तो फिर उसमें फिर एक इन्वेस्टिगेशन होगी। असल मसला तो जो है वो पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज़ का है कि सियासी पार्टियां उनके साथ जो है वो पार्लियामेंट के अंदर और पार्लियामेंट के बाहर, पॉलिटिक्स के अंदर, पार्लियामेंट के अंदर, जुडिशरी के अंदर, इकनॉमिक्स के अंदर इंटरवेंशन जो है वो उनकी मिलिट्री इस्टेब्लिशमेंट की रोकें। जब तक उसको नहीं रोका जाता उस वक्त तक ना लोगों के फंडामेंटल राइट्स हासिल होते हैं, ना इकनॉमिक राइट्स हासिल होते हैं, ना पॉलिटिकल राइट्स हासिल होते हैं। मैं समझता हूँ कि सबसे बड़ी जिम्मेदारी हमारी पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज़ की है और उनकी पॉलिटिकल लीडरशिप की है कि वो इस मुल्क के अंदर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल रूल को कायम करें। थैंक यू।
बहुत शुक्रिया अख्तर हुसैन साहब। और मैं खैर मकदम करना चाहती हूँ, अभी अभी सेनेटर ताज हैदर साहब आए हैं, तशरीफ़ लाए हैं। सीनियर वकील एहसन भून साहब, आपका भी खैर मकदम करना चाहती हूँ। और मैं चाहूँगी कि हम तकरीरें अपनी थोड़ी सी छोटी कर लें, चूँकि आप सब को हम तफसील से सुनना चाहते हैं। अब मैं दावत दूँगी फॉर्मर प्रेसिडेंट सुप्रीम कोर्ट बार एसोसिएशन जनाब यासीन आज़ाद साहब को।
औज़ु बिल्लाहि मिन शैतानिर रजीम, बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। इंतहाई काबिल एहतराम चेयरमैन सेनेट जनाब यूसुफ रज़ा गिलानी साहब, मोहतरमा नसरीन अज़हर साहिबा, फारूक नायक साबिक चेयरमैन सेनेट एंड सेनेटर, अली ज़फ़र सेनेटर एंड साबिक प्रेसिडेंट सुप्रीम कोर्ट बार एसोसिएशन, अख्तर हुसैन साबिक चेयरमैन, इस पंडाल के अंदर मौजूद तमाम ख़वातीन व हज़रात, मैं सबसे पहले आप तमाम ख़वातीन व हज़रात का दिल की गहराइयों से शुक्रिया अदा करता हूँ कि आसमा जहांगीर के हवाले से इस होने वाली कॉन्फ्रेंस में पूरी दुनिया से जो लोग यहाँ तशरीफ़ लाए और लगातार 2 दिन से इस कॉन्फ्रेंस को अटेंड कर रहे हैं, और ऑर्गेनाइज़र और आसमा जहांगीर की दोनों बेटियों को मुबारकबाद पेश करता हूँ कि अपनी वालदा के नक्शे कदम पे चलते हुए वो हर साल इस कॉन्फ्रेंस का इनकाद करती हैं, दुनिया से लोगों को बुलाती हैं और हमें इस बात का मौका फराहम करती हैं कि हम यहाँ आएँ और अपने ख़यालात का इज़हार करें। इस मुल्क की बदकिस्मती ये है कि वक्तन फ़क्तन ताकत के बलबूते पर बाज़ औक़ात इलेक्टेड गवर्नमेंट को रिमूव किया गया और ताकत के बलबूते पे इक़्तिदार में आने वाले लोगों को आज दिन तक मेरी अदलिया ने किसी भी मार्शल लॉ को गैर कानूनी डिक्लेयर नहीं किया, बल्कि हर मार्शल लॉ को कानूनी तहफ़्फ़ुज़ फराहम किया। बात आकर यहाँ ख़त्म नहीं हो जाती। मैं 2 दिन से यहाँ देख रहा हूँ कि जो हमारे सियासतदान हैं, मैंने तकरीरें सुनी, उन्होंने कहा कि जी हम बिल्कुल इनोसेंट हैं, हमारी कोई गलती नहीं है। अदलिया अपने आप को ये समझती है कि सबसे ज़्यादा आज़ाद अदारा अदलिया का है, लेकिन मेरे नज़दीक, मेरे नुक्ता नज़र के मुताबिक सबसे ज़्यादा मजबूत अगर कोई इदारा होना चाहिए तो वो पार्लियामेंट का इदारा होना चाहिए। पिछले दौरे हुकूमत में मेरी ज़िंदगी के एक तजर्बा हुआ, वो ये हुआ कि एक जनरल की एक्सटेंशन का मामला आया। मामला मेरे सुप्रीम कोर्ट में चला गया। 3 दिन तक ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जज साहिबान ये बात कहते रहे कि कानून और आइन इजाज़त नहीं देता, हम कौन से कानून और आइन के तहत आपको एक्सटेंशन दें। मेरी इसी अदलिया ने 3 दिन के बाद, जब कानून और आइन मौजूद नहीं था, तो 6 महीने की एक्सटेंशन एक जर्नल को दी और मामला आकर यहीं ख़त्म नहीं किया। उसके बाद मामला पार्लियामेंट के अंदर चला गया। जब ये मामला पार्लियामेंट के अंदर आ गया तो विद ग्रेट रिस्पेक्ट टू एवरी पॉलिटिशियन, उस वक्त ये हुकूमत ने और उस वक्त की पार्लियामेंट के अंदर बड़ी पार्टियों ने भी उस जर्नल को 3 साल की एक्सटेंशन दी। मैं सवाल पूछने में हक बजानम हूँ कि आखिर क्या एक्स्ट्रा ऑर्डिनरी क्वालिफिकेशन थी इस जर्नल की जिसको आपने 3 साल की मज़ीद एक्सटेंशन दी। अब जो सूरत हाल है वो ये है कि मैंने अपने 75 साल लाइफ में ये देखा कि मार्शल लॉ अगर आता है तो 11 साल तक हम उसको बर्दाश्त करते हैं उसके ताबिया भी रहते हैं, उसके डायरेक्शन को भी फॉलो करते हैं। फारूक नाइक साहब और अली ज़फ़र साहब यहाँ मौजूद हैं। जब जनरल परवेज़ मुशर्रफ का दौर आया तो एक सूरत हाल ऐसी पैदा हुई कि एक जजमेंट था जो ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने देना था। रात को बार का एक डिनर था। डिनर के अंदर शरीफुद्दीन पीरज़ादा ने उस वक्त चीफ जस्टिस से सवाल किया कि कल जो आप जजमेंट दे रहे हैं उसमें मिलिट्री रजीम को आइन के अंदर तब्दीली का इख्तियार दे रहे हैं या नहीं दे रहे। चीफ जस्टिस पाकिस्तान ने कहा ये मुमकिन नहीं है। तो उन्होंने कहा जिस सीट पे आप बैठे हैं कल इस पे नज़र नहीं आएंगे। मैं आज भी दावे के साथ कहता हूँ उस जजमेंट की ओरिजिनल कॉपी को मंगवा के देखें कि आखिरकार उस वक्त के चीफ जस्टिस ने और जज साहिबान ने 4-5 लाइनें बढ़ाकर मिलिट्री के डिक्टेटर को आइन के अंदर तब्दीली का इख्तियार दिया। अब मेरा सवाल यह है पार्लियामेंटेरियन से कि आप मुझे सिंपल ये बता दें कि किसी भी पॉलिटिकल पार्टी को हुकूमत मिलती है तो क्या आप लोगों को इक़्तिदार मिलता है या नहीं मिलता? मेरा कहना यह है आपको हुकूमत तो मिलती है, आपको इख्तियार नहीं मिलता। आज भी इख्तियार उन लोगों के पास है, आज भी इख्तियार उन लोगों के पास है जिनका आइन के अंदर सियासत में कोई रोल नहीं है और उन्हीं के हुक्म के ताबे हम होकर चलते हैं। चंद दिन हुए, 3-4 दिन पहले मैंने देखा कि एक पॉलिटिकल पार्टी का लीडर एक एंकर को इंटरव्यू देते हुए उसने कहा कि मैं पाकिस्तान के सियासतदानों से बातचीत करने के लिए तो तैयार नहीं हूँ, मैं आर्मी चीफ से और ISI के सरबराह से बातचीत करने के लिए तैयार हूँ, आपके साथ बातचीत करने के लिए तैयार नहीं हूँ। तो फिर मैं ये सवाल पूछता हूँ कि मुझे इतना तो बता दें कि इस मुल्क को क्राइसिस से निकालने के लिए कौन आदमी रोल प्ले करेगा? किस आदमी ने इस मुल्क की तकदीर को बदली करना है? किस मुल्क की ताकत ने इस मुल्क में होने वाले जुल्म और सितम को रोकना है? मैं 2012 का एक वाक़या बताता हूँ कि बलूचिस्तान बादअमनी के हिसाब से सुप्रीम कोर्ट में केस चल रहा था कोयटा में। मिसिंग पर्सन की एक लाइन लगी हुई थी कोयटा में। एक बच्ची तकरीबन 17-18 साल की, माजरत के साथ मैं थोड़ा सा टाइम लूँगा, वो बच्ची कोर्ट में आई तो ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने एडवोकेट जनरल को कहा उस बच्ची का भाई पिछले 5 साल से लापता था, उसके वेयर अबाउट का कोई पता नहीं था और किसी सरकारी दफ्तर में नायब कासद की हैसियत से वो बच्ची काम करती थी। ऑनरेबल चीफ जस्टिस ने एडवोकेट जनरल को कहा कि इसके भाई की तनख्वाह तो दें ताकि ये बच्ची गुजारा करे। एडवोकेट जनरल को क्रेडिट जाता है कि नेक्स्ट डे वो चेक बना के ले आया। जब उस बच्ची को चेक देने की कोशिश की गई तो बच्ची ने कहा कि सर मुझे ये कागज़ का टुकड़ा नहीं चाहिए, मुझे मेरा भाई चाहिए। क्या बलूचिस्तान के अंदर, क्या सिंध के अंदर मिसिंग पर्सन का मामला नहीं है? और फिर मैं अपने सियासतदानों से ये सवाल करने में आगे बढ़ाना हूँ कि मुझे आप ये बता दें कि जो हमारी फ़ौज है वो एग्जीक्यूटिव के ताबिया है या नहीं है? मेरा कहना कि एग्जीक्यूटिव के ताबिया है। मेरे आइन के अंदर जो अलफ उनको दिया जाता है उसमें ये बात लिखी हुई है कि सियासत पे आपने कोई बात नहीं करनी है। तो सबसे ज़्यादा सियासत तो वो लोग करते हैं जिनका आइन के अंदर कोई रोल नहीं है, और जिनका आइन के तहत रोल है उनका सियासी रोल मुझे कोई नज़र नहीं आता। आखिर क्यों? ये सूरत हाल क्यों है? उसके लिए मेरी तजवीज़ ये है, और मैं कई दफ़ा अपने ख़यालात का इज़हार करते हुए ये बात कह चुका हूँ कि अगर ताकतवर लोगों से आपको जान छुड़ानी है तो मेरे नज़दीक उसका एक रास्ता है, लेकिन वह रास्ता बड़ा मुश्किल है, उस पर अमल करना शायद आपके लिए मुश्किल हो जाए। वो रास्ता ये है कि पाकिस्तान के तमाम सियासतदान एक प्लेटफॉर्म पे आ जाएं। 1 पॉइंट एजेंडा होना चाहिए, और एजेंडा क्या होना चाहिए कि उनको ये पैगाम दें कि हम किसी इंतखाबात में हिस्सा नहीं लेते उस वक्त तक जब तक आप सियासत में दखल अंदाजी बंद नहीं करेंगे। मैं समझता हूँ कि ऐसा मुमकिन नहीं है। हमारे यहाँ हर सियासी जमात ये फील करती है हम हर सियासी जमात ये फील करती है और वह ये समझती है कि एस्टेब्लिशमेंट की मदद के बगैर हम हुकूमत नहीं बना सकते। आज दिन को मैं इसी जगह पे जो माशी एक्सपर्ट ने उनको सुन रहा था, सब ने कहा कि हम सब कर्जा लेते हैं। किसी ने इस बात की तजवीज़ नहीं दी, किसी ने इस बात का हल नहीं दिया कि इन कर्ज़ों से निजात कैसे हासिल की जाएगी। IMF से पाकिस्तान के 25 करोड़ आवाम को कैसे निकाला जाएगा। हमारे अखराजात देखें, VIP कल्चर को देखें, हमारे अखराजात को देखें, बड़े बड़ों लोगों के लिए सब कुछ है। लेकिन जिस तरह अख्तर हुसैन ने कहा कि पाकिस्तान के 25 करोड़ आवाम जो बड़ी मुश्किल से अपनी ज़िंदगी बसर कर रहे हैं, महंगाई के दलदल में वो फंसे हुए हैं। आप ये तो बता दें कि 30,000 तनख्वाह लेने वाला आदमी क्या अपनी ज़िंदगी को मौजूदा दौर में बाइज़्ज़त तरीके से गुजार सकता है? नहीं कर सकता। अब ये जो सूरत हाल है हमारे मुल्क की, इस मुल्क की सूरत हाल को बेहतर बनाने के लिए आखिर किसने रोल प्ले करना है? आज भी मैं देख रहा हूँ, मैं भी एक पॉलिटिकल वर्कर हूँ, शायद उसमें मेरी जमात भी शामिल हो। मैं आज भी ये देखता हूँ कि हुकूमत तो आप लोगों को मिल गई, लेकिन डायरेक्शन मेरे भाइयों की चल रही है और उनके ख़िलाफ़ हम बोलते हुए हमें डर और खौफ आता है। लेकिन जब तक इस डर और खौफ को ख़त्म करके आप इस सिलसिले को ख़त्म नहीं करेंगे, पाकिस्तान कभी तरक्की नहीं करेगा, पाकिस्तान कभी आगे नहीं बढ़ेगा, पाकिस्तान को महंगाई से कभी निजात नहीं मिलेगी। आप ये बता दें, मैंने कल परसों एक जगह पढ़ा, मैं इकनॉमिक्स का कोई एक्सपर्ट आदमी नहीं हूँ, उसमें लिखा हुआ था कि जून 2024 तक पाकिस्तान पे कर्ज़ों की जो लिमिट है वो 25,000 खरब हो जाएगी। 25,000 खरब। अब ये 25,000 खरब की जो अमाउंट है, आप कर्ज़े पे कर्ज़ा लेके जा रहे हैं, तो आप मुझे ये बता दें कि ये 25,000 खरब का जो कर्ज़ा है उसको कैसे अदा करेंगे। और पाकिस्तान की जो माशी सूरत हाल तबाही और बर्बादी के दाने पर खड़ी है, दहशत गर्दी अपने अरूज पे है। चूँकि मैं टाइम ज़्यादा लेना चाहता हूँ, मुझे 2 दफ़ा पर्ची आ चुकी है, मैं बात को कंक्लूड करना चाहता हूँ, लेकिन मैं ये बात ज़रूर कहना चाहता हूँ कि खुदा के लिए इस मुल्क पे रहम करें, बैठें आपस में, सियासी इख्तिलाफात को ख़त्म करें, उन लोगों की तरफ मत देखें बल्कि अपने भाइयों की तरफ देखें। सियासी इख्तिलाफात करना कोई बुरी बात नहीं है, आप करें, आपस में बैठें और बैठ के मसले मसाइल का हल निकालें, पाकिस्तान के कर्ज़ों के दलदल से निकालें, IMF के सामने हाथ फैलाना बंद कर दें। और जब तक माशी तौर पर हम तबाही और बर्बादी के दाने पे खड़े हैं, उस वक्त तक मैं पाकिस्तान को एक आज़ाद और ख़ुद मुख्तार रियासत तस्लीम करने के लिए तैयार नहीं हूँ, क्योंकि IMF के चुंगल में आप इतनी बुरी तरह फंस चुके हैं कि उससे निजात हासिल करना आपके लिए मुश्किल है। आखिर मैं एक दफ़ा तमाम ख़वातीन और हज़रात आपका शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहता हूँ। मैं बहुत कुछ कहना चाहता था, लेकिन वक्त की किल्लत के बाद मैं अपने ख्यालात का इसी पर बात ख़त्म करता हूँ। लेकिन एक बात आखिर में यूसुफ रज़ा गिलानी साहब की मौजूदगी में मैं ये कहूँगा कि मेहरबानी करें, सियासतदान आपस में बैठें, मसले मसाइल का हल निकालें और ताकतवर लोगों को कहें कि हमें काम करने दो, तुम अपना काम करो, हम अपना काम करेंगे, आप आइनी हदूद के अंदर रह के काम करें। तमाम आइनी इदारों की आइनी हदूद मुकर्रर है, आप उन्हीं आइनी लिमिटेशन के अंदर रह के काम करेंगे तो मामला बेहतर होंगे। एक दूसरे के मामले में मुदाखलत करेंगे, क्राइसिस होंगे, पाकिस्तान को नुकसान पहुँचेगा। थैंक यू वेरी मच सर।
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया यासीन आज़ाद साहब। और हमें इधर थोड़ी सी इजाज़त मिलती है, चूँकि आखिरकार आसमा जहांगीर की कॉन्फ्रेंस है तो कुछ तल्ख बातें तो हो जाती हैं, मगर ये ज़रूरी है इसलिए चूँकि अगर यहाँ पे एक ऑनेस्ट कॉन्वर्सेशन नहीं होगी तो फिर कैसे हम कह सकते हैं कि यह आसमा जहांगीर की ही कॉन्फ्रेंस है। अगर हम आपके सामने, सियासतदानों के सामने अपने शिकायत नहीं रखेंगे तो हम कहाँ जाएंगे। इट हैज़ टू बी द बिगनिंग ऑफ अ कंस्ट्रक्टिव डायलॉग। अब मैं दावत देती हूँ, चूँकि यहाँ पे आज़म नज़ीर तारड़ साहब नहीं आ सके, उनकी फ़ैमिली के अंदर डेथ हुई है, उनको आज शहर से बाहर जाना पड़ा, तो मैं सेनेटर फ़ारूक हमीद नायक साहब को जो है दावत देती हूँ, जो फॉर्मर लॉ मिनिस्टर भी रह चुके हैं और चेयरमैन एग्जीक्यूटिव कमेटी पाकिस्तान बार काउंसिल हैं, पाकिस्तान पीपल्स पार्टी से मुंसलिक हैं।
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Syed Yusuf Raza Gilani Sahab, Chairman Senate and former Prime Minister of Pakistan. Senator Syed Ali Zafar, former Federal Minister of Law and Justice. Mr. Yasin Azad, former President, Supreme Court Bar Association. Mr. Akhtar Hussain, Advocate, Supreme Court. Mrs. Nasreen, Azhar, Founding Member, Women's Action Forum. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum and a very good evening to all of you. मैं इतनी जोशीली स्पीच तो नहीं कर सकूँगा जैसे कि अख्तर हुसैन साहब ने और यासीन आज़ाद साहब ने की है, क्योंकि मैं एक बड़ा मॉडरेट किस्म का आदमी हूँ और मैं ये समझता हूँ कि हर चीज़ को तहम्मुल मजाजी के साथ इस तहम्मुल मजाजी के साथ फ़ैसला करना चाहिए और इफ़हाम व तफ़हीम के साथ चलना चाहिए। जंगजू होने की ज़रूरत कोई नहीं है। मे भी हो सकता है ये मेरे अंदर एक खामी हो जो कि मैं इसका एडमिट करता हूँ आप सबके सामने। Ladies and gentlemen, I stand amidst you today focusing on a dialogue that shapes future of civil liberties in our region. I am reminded of legacy of an extraordinary champion of justice, late Asma Jahangir. Her unwavering courage and commitment to human rights continue to inspire our collective conscience. Drawing from my own journey as a young judge and a magistrate at the age of 23 years, then as a lawyer, and my tenure in the Senate, I witnessed firsthand pulsating heart of our nation's judicial system. It has been a career not just within courts, but within revered halls of our parliament, where laws that govern and protect us are crafted. Each one of us here carries a torch that illuminates path of justice and civil liberties. As a guardian of public trust, I have always believed that mantle of leadership comes with duty to not only legislate, but to empathize, to understand challenges our citizens faced in their quest for justice. In the chambers of Senate, where voice of people echoes, I strive to strengthen our parliament as an institution that stands resilient against winds of change and uncertainty. It is here that I learned that our responsibilities go beyond mere governance. They are about safeguarding hopes and dreams of every Pakistani. On top of that, I have had great privilege of belonging to People's Party, as my party proudly has always stood in front rows against oppression and injustice, especially our great leader, Qaid-e-Awam, Shahid Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, and the first woman Prime Minister of Pakistan, Shahid Benazir Bhutto, who gave their lives for democracy, equality, for downtrodden people of Pakistan, for safeguarding the civil, political, and human rights. Frederick Douglass has been called father of civil rights, and Rosa Parks is called mother of civil rights movement. But we should not forget names in this regard: Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, Malala Yousafzai, and Greta Thunberg. Civil rights, ladies and gentlemen, includes right to vote, right to a fair trial, right to government services, right to public education, right to employment, right to housing, right to use public facilities, and freedom of religion. Our country's constitution and federal laws contain practical protection that forms foundation of our inclusive society. Right to be free from discrimination, freedom to worship and to choose, right to vote for elected representatives, protection of due process of law, and right to privacy and equality of all before law. Civil rights, ladies and gentlemen, also include poverty eliminator and equality in criminal legal system and family court system. Political leaders have tremendous power when they actively participate to safeguard civil rights. They can take up roles like watchdogs, advisors, organizers, mobilizers, and mediators. They can ensure that government acts in service of people, hear their problems, and make changes. They can use their powers as political leaders to strengthen democracy and rule of law. They can work with local, national, and international laws in mind to strengthen rule of law, which is essential for safeguarding civil societies. Most effective way to protect civil and human rights by political leaders, to which I admonish them now, is by building culture of peace, promoting education, general equality, tolerance, democracy, open communication, and sustainable development, which I agree with Akhtar Hussain Saab and Yasin Saab that we lack it today. This is the reason we are facing these problems. This is the reason that the youth is getting disgruntled. So the political leaders have a great role to play to safeguard the civil rights of the people at large. Political leaders can stand up to support and protect human and civil rights in some of the following manner, according to me. I may be wrong. Speak up for what they care about, as one voice is enough to open up a channel for others to share their experiences and support civil rights. 2, fight for systematic justice. 3, stay connected with the social movements like Asma Jahangir's. 4th, stand up against discrimination. Political leaders have got to work to protect individuals and groups from political oppression and repression and discrimination by government and private organization, and seek to ensure ability of all members of society to participate in civil and political life of state. Political leaders, in order to safeguard civil rights, must stand for deference of rights and dignity of voiceless and most marginalized sections of society, bringing alive value of individuals and collective freedom and dignity. To safeguard civil rights, political leaders must stand for equality, dignity, and non-discrimination, and make laws to ensure accountability of persons in power and in high office, as justice is prerequisite for lasting peace and social harmony, and which is the need of the day in Pakistan today. My fellow leaders, we are the architects of our nation's destiny. Our actions must ensure that every child, woman, and man is shielded by a robust framework of law. Let us reinforce judiciary's independence, fortify rule of law, and secure a society where justice is not only served, but is seen to be served. I recall moments within courtroom where scale of justice does not merely weigh evidence, but very fates of individuals seeking fairness and dignity. Such is our undertaking, where our legal framework must be living entities that evolve with our society's dynamic needs. Economic empowerment is not separate from civil rights. It is integral. A citizen preoccupied with survival cannot fully exercise their civil liberties. Thus, our policies must knit together fabric of economic and civil well-being, forging a path to prosperity and freedom. To the youth who looks towards us with eyes full of hope, we owe a narrative of integrity and action. Our commitment must be to leave behind an inheritance of a nation where law is a shield and not a sword against citizens. In spirit of service and duty, let us pledge today to honor trust bestowed upon us by the people of Pakistan. This is my advice to the political leaders of Pakistan. To strengthen, to serve, and to secure. This is our mandate of the political leaders, and I stand with you, ready to shoulder this noble endeavor. I agree with Mrs. Munizae that there should be a charter of democracy which will lead to progress in Pakistan, which will lead to political and economic prosperity, which will lead to harmonize the relationship between the political leaders. And if the political leaders will get united, what my friends have said regarding establishment, regarding hidden forces would not come into play. Why these hidden forces? As my friends are saying, they are the ones who are ruling and not the political leaders. Because political leaders are not united. They are not united. They fight with each other for power. For power, they fight with each other. We should stop looking at the power, हमको भूल जाना चाहिए कि हमने हुकूमत करनी है कि नहीं करना चाहिए. हमको ये देखना चाहिए कि हम आवाम की कैसे खिदमत कर सकते हैं. आवाम की खिदमत की जब ही जज्बा पैदा होगा जब हम पावर स्ट्रगल के अंदर मिनिस्टर बनने का ख्वाब करना छोड़ दें, लालच करना छोड़ दें, ग्रीड करना छोड़ दें और आवाम की खिदमत करने के लिए सही जज्बा पैदा करें. In the end, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you all for the privilege of addressing this August gathering and look forward to contributing to a collective vision for a more just and equitable society. Pakistan, Paindabad.
Thank you, Senator Farooq Naek Saab. You are also quite spirited. You shouldn't underestimate yourself. And perhaps it is your friend Asma's spirit that brings that out of you. So thank you very much. I would now like to call upon the leader of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, Senator Syed Ali Zafar, Senator and former Federal Minister of Law and Justice. और जिस तरह फ़ारूक नाइक साहब ने कहा कि सियासतदानों को इकट्ठे हो जाना चाहिए, तो अक्सर ये सवाल किया जाता है कि क्या पाकिस्तान तहरीक-ए-इंसाफ बाकी सियासतदानों के साथ इकट्ठा होना पसंद करेगी? इसी सवाल के साथ मैं आपको बुलाती हूँ.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, it is an honor to be amongst such distinguished speakers and addressing such an august and wonderful gathering. I would like to first of all honor the memory of Asma Jahangir. I would like to acknowledge that she has been a mentor and inspiration for me to join the political world. I was a lawyer till she instigated me that if you want to make a change, if you want to do anything that is right, if you believe that you want to say something beyond the drawing room talk, then join politics. And that's how my journey started. A number of things I owe to her, so my gratitude, and I'm very happy that her family, her 2 daughters, and all her colleagues who were working with her is taking this forward. I once went to this small country. It's called Bhutan. It's a small country somewhere in the hills. And even the landing of the plane is very difficult because the plane has to reach a certain altitude, then do a very, very dangerous turn and land into a very small airstrip. It's a small country in Himalayas called Bhutan. I happened to go there for a conference. They have a king, but they also have a parliament. So the parliamentarians took me to their school, and to one of their school I saw a number of children studying there. मेरा ख्याल है class 4th या 5th के होंगे या maybe more, but they looked very young to me. और वो कुछ पढ़ रहे थे, तो उनकी किताब उठा के मैंने जब देखी, तो उसका जो पूरा subject था was about civil liberties. और chapter 1 जो उसका था was about the rights of trees. They had fundamental rights of trees. Chapter 2 was about animals, rights of animals, and chapter 3 were the rights of the human beings. So that got me wondering कि हम लोग in Pakistan, we don't study civil liberties. It was not until I went to do my law degree कि मैंने Aristotle और Plato और Socrates के बारे में पढ़ा, their right to ask questions. And then I got inspired by one philosopher, Voltaire, एक French philosopher था. And I got inspired by one of his quotes. I was studying law to make money, but that quote actually inspired me and got me thinking. And he is stated to have said about somebody जो he did not like और उसकी किताब को बड़ा सेंसर किया जा रहा था. तो he said, you know, I hate what you say. I hate what you say, but I will die protecting your right to say it. मैंने सोचा बड़ा अजीबो-गरीब बंदा है वॉल्टेयर कि he hates what he's saying but he'll die protecting that right. So what is this concept of civil liberties? And I said, why have I not studied this concept when I was growing up? And then I realized that this concept of civil liberties should be actually in the blood of each one of us Pakistanis. Because we got this nation, we got this country, we got our independence based on the concept of civil liberties. Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the moment we had achieved independence, what did he say? He said, you are free to go to your temples. बहुत famous quote है, I'm sure everybody knows it. You are free to go to your temples, you are free to go to your mosques. You are free to practice whatever your religion is. The state has nothing to do with your religion. ये था concept हमारा. We, in fact, I must give credit to our politicians. Politicians को हम बहुत ज़्यादा हमेशा नीचा समझते हैं, but I must give credit to them, those politicians who were the founding members of our 1973 Constitution. They had the Universal Declaration of Human Rights with them. Universal Declaration of Human Rights उनके पास थी, and then they made the Constitution even better. The beautiful words, the fundamental rights in our Constitution, the right of equality, the right to profess your religion, the price that the fundamental right that there will be no discrimination, the basic right of life, the right of due process. All these great and beautiful words, you will not find them in any constitution. So the politicians gave that constitution to the people of Pakistan. Now, where do we stand? We have the words of the law, we have the constitution, we have the ethos, but do we find those civil liberties available to us? आज का topic इसलिए I feel it is very, very interesting. What is the role of the politicians and the political forces in implementing what is already there in the law? हमें कानून की ज़रूरत नहीं है, हमें implementation की ज़रूरत है, उसमें हमारा क्या role हो सकता? I think the fundamental role, the basic role of politicians is get a soul first. Get a soul in your body to actually feel for the people. What are we suffering from? We are suffering from two, and I said that in a speech very recently in the Senate. The chairman was of the Senate was in fact addressing, was there in the session, and I said there are two hurdles that are stopping our civil liberties from being implemented. The hurdle, जिसको मैं लानत कहता हूँ, of extremism and intolerance. And these two hurdles that are stopping our progress, while the rest of the world is busy in making inventions, these two hurdles are stopping us. So as a politician, I feel our first and primary responsibility is to tackle these two issues through education and through development. I always quote, and I will re-quote the conversation that Maulana Rumi had with one of his disciples. And I've quoted this also in my speech recently, but it is worth quoting here also. So the disciple asked Maulana Rumi, which music sound is haram in Islam? Which music sound is haram in Islam? And Maulana Rumi replied, the sound of spoons. The sound of spoons when they are heard by the poor and the hungry. Civil liberties is something that cannot be achieved in its true form unless and until we get rid of poverty, we have development in the country, and these liberties follow that. The more the country develops, it's a historical fact, the civil liberties, the people will safeguard. The people themselves will safeguard those liberties. So our responsibility as politicians, first of all, is to ensure that the country develops, and secondly, that we are educating people. Now, why have politicians so far failed to achieve this? That is important to learn. We have failed because if you look at our history, if you look at the history of the country, right from 1947, the politicians have been unable to live up to those expectations. They have been unable to fulfill their obligations. Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the moment 1947 came, Pakistan did not have a constitution. So he constituted a constituent assembly. और वो जो constituent assembly थी, the constituent assembly was supposed to make a constitution. It did not make a constitution for 10 years. वो क्यों नहीं की constitution बनाई? Because in effect, for those 10 years, they wanted to prolong their life. If they had made a constitution, then they would have been no longer part of the constituent assembly. They would not have enjoyed the privileges of being members of the assembly. So they kept prolonging it. Then when they made the 1956 constitution, this constituent assembly did not, a new constituent assembly came, they made the 56 constitution, immediately infighting started between the politicians. Prime Minister upon Prime Minister came and they changed. And what happened then? Martial law came in. Fast forwarding it to 1977, we had a democratic government, politicians were there, but elections were rigged. Infighting took place, there were movements in the streets, martial law came in. And what happened then? The very people who were fighting for democracy joined the new government of Zia-ul-Haq. So the reputation of the politicians kept deteriorating over time. Then came an era of two political parties, very important political parties of Pakistan, People's Party and Nawaz Sharif League. And for many years they fought each other. Their interest was power. They fought each other and none of them completed their 5-year terms. One came in, the second one left. The second one came in, the third one left. And so, again another martial law came at the end of the day. So the politicians kept losing their reputation in the public. And this important thing about civil liberties, it kept giving way to other institutions to suppress them. Today also, I was asked to answer a very important question. Today also, we politicians are fighting each other. We are constantly at loggerheads. And I think that gives the right to other institutions to step in. Or not the right, that's not the right word. that gives them the opportunity to step in. And when they step in, then it's difficult to get the elephant out of the tent. Right now, we have very serious curtailment of our liberties. Freedom of expression and speech, fundamental right hota hai. It is not there. Yes, it is not there. It is one-sided. Some people are allowed to speak and their speeches are reported. Some people's speeches are not. Number two, justice. Rule of law means everybody is to be treated equally. But we have one-sided justice going on. Many of the political leadership of one political party is being victimized, while the others are not. I can go on and on about the civil liberties that are not there. Magar, the point is, why shouldn't we think openly? Why shouldn't politicians think, if today I am in power and somebody else is suffering, tomorrow that person may be in power and I will be suffering. Until and unless we come to realize that and we accept the fact that we actually have one agenda. अगर civil liberties की बात करते हैं तो agenda हर political party का common है. Every political party, I believe, believes in these fundamental rights. लेकिन होता ये है कि you become in power, and once you come in power, you forget about the fundamental rights of others. And therefore, the cycle is repeated, and it gets getting repeated. So my answer to your question that you asked is yes. Let us first look at the fundamentals. Let us first agree that civil liberties, human rights, political rights, social rights, cultural rights, all these rights are equal for everyone. Let us get the soul of these rights in our hearts, and then we will talk. Then why should we not talk? But let us first get the premise straight. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Senator Ali Zafar Saab. And I've just received a request that there will be before we bring in our chief guest, just a very, very brief comment from the former member of the European Parliament who has travelled all the way from Ireland. If agar aap ijazat dein, to a very, very brief comment that he wants to just say something. John Cushnan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. As the former leader of 5 European election observation missions in South Asia, the 2002 one here and 4 in Sri Lanka, I would like to personally thank you for the invitation to share my experiences with you. Secondly, I want to pay tribute to the organization of this conference and offer my congratulations to what has been, in my experience, one of the most impressive conferences I've ever been at in defending human rights. I believe it is a great act of solidarity with all those that defend human rights throughout South Asia. I also think it will bring great comfort to them. It's not only important to the people of Pakistan, it's important for all of those throughout South Asia to give them the resolve to continue to defend those human rights. I hope it also will give inspiration to the newly elected government in Pakistan, who will work in cooperation with all democratic forces to take back absolute power to those who are democratically elected to discharge it, and end the interference of those who undermine democracy and human rights. It's up to democratically elected people to do that, and I wish you well in any attempt you make to achieve it.
Well, thank you very much. And I would like to take that opportunity, क्योंकि आप एक दफ़ा हमारे चीफ गेस्ट बोल लेंगे तो फिर हमारी बात कहाँ सुनेंगे, तो I would just like to thank the organizers of the conference, the AGHS Legal Aid Cell led by Nida Ali and also by Alia Malik, and we must note Rubina Shaheen, the Pakistan Bar Council, the Supreme Court Bar Association of Pakistan, Saroop Ijaz from the Asma Jahangir Foundation, and our partners, our supporters, the European Union, the Kingdom of Netherlands, German Embassy, the Norwegian Embassy, the British High Commission, and the Embassy of Spain. We would like to also thank our speakers who came from Palestine, the United Kingdom, Spain, EU, and other countries, our moderators especially, who put in a lot of hard work before the conference actually begins. And I'd also like to emphasize that every year we want to have new speakers. I know some of you were upset that you were not called, but it's only because we want to keep things evolving, and you will again be called next year. But there must be new speakers also at every conference. I would also like to thank the Filetti's Hotel Generation, who provided all the bags that you have. And of course, Samina Ahmed sitting right before us, Afra Saab Khatak, who helped us formulate this conference. I would like to thank the Law Minister, Azam Nazir Tarar, not for being sacked for the first time, but basically for supporting us throughout this cause. I would like to thank हमारे कैमरामैन, हमारी मीडिया जो कई दिनों से यहाँ पे खड़े हुए हैं. आपका बहुत शुक्रिया, आपने हमारे साथ बहुत कोऑपरेट किया है. और हमारे वॉलंटियर्स जो आए, आपका बहुत शुक्रिया. यंग विमेन who really helped us, and the 140 female lawyers that came from across Pakistan. I salute your courage, and I hope that we will see you all again. And last but not least, I must thank On Kazmi, who has really put this conference together with a lot of effort. And I would now like to call upon the Chairman Senate of Pakistan, the former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Mr. Yusuf Raza Gilani, and I'd like to introduce you to him because when he became Prime Minister, he freed political prisoners, he lifted the ban on student unions, he spoke of free speech, he allowed the media to report independently without fear or favor, and he announced the Aghaze-Haquq-e Balochistan package. His democratic credentials are very sound. I now give the floor to Chairman Senate Yusuf Raza Gilani. Thank you, sir.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable speakers, foreign dignitaries, members of legal fraternity, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. It is a privilege to be here again in remembrance of late Asma Jahangir and deliver the closing address of this conference. She was a friend and an inspiration for all democratic people of Pakistan. Asma Jahangir was a warrior for a democratic, progressive, inclusive, modern, and pluralistic Pakistan. This conference in her memory has become a vital forum for having important and sometimes uncomfortable conversations on fundamental rights, democracy, rule of law, and constitutionalism. These conversations of the rule of law, freedom of expression, women's rights are absolutely essential for us to have if we intend to be flourishing democratic state, which will become inshallah. I have great admiration and respect for Asma Jahangir and her courage to speak truth to power. She was elected as the first woman president of Supreme Court Bar Association at a time when I was Prime Minister of Pakistan. I fondly recall my engagement with her in that role. एक वाक़या मैं सुनाना चाहता हूँ जो सारा क्रक्स होगा जो आपकी गुफ्तगू हुई है। मैंने जो मोहतरमा बेनज़ीर भुट्टो शहीद और मियाँ मोहम्मद नवाज शरीफ साहब के माबैन चार्टर ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी पर जब साइन हुआ तो ये ज़िम्मेवारी मेरे ऊपर थी टू इम्प्लीमेंट इट, और मैंने उस चार्टर ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी पे काम किया। 85% उस पर अमल दरामद किया और कुछ नकात रह गए जो ऑपोजिशन की नॉन कोऑपरेशन की वजह से ना हो सके। मगर उस पे एक जो सबसे बड़ा काम था, अब यहाँ लीगल फ्रेटर्निटी भी है, जुडिशरी के लोग भी हैं, स्टूडेंट्स भी हैं और लीडर्स भी हैं। मुझे आसमा जहांगीर ने आई मेरे पास तो मुझे बहुत कहने लगी कि प्राइम मिनिस्टर साहब आज आप बहुत खुश लग रहे हैं कि आप 58(2)B का ख़ात्मा किया। 58(2)B के जब से पाकिस्तान बना आपने देखा कि डिक्टेटर्स 58(2)B के तहत गवर्नमेंट को रुखसत करते थे, तो आज आपने इसको ख़त्म कर दिया। आप बहुत खुश हैं, मगर मैं आपको एक चीज़ बताना चाहती हूँ कि अब 58(2)B का जो इतलाक़ है वो एस्टेब्लिशमेंट नहीं करेगी, वो जुडिशरी करेगी। और फिर आपने देखा मैं भी गया, नवाज शरीफ साहब भी गए, तो वो 58(2)B का इतलाक़ जो हुआ वो डिक्टेटर्स की तरफ से फिर नहीं हुआ, फिर जुडिशरी की तरफ से हुआ। तो इसके लिए इट्स अ फूड फॉर थॉट, आप वो भी सोचें। आई शेयर मैनी ऑफ द वैल्यूज़ ऑफ दैट आसमा जहांगीर स्टूड फॉर in her fight for an inclusive democratic country. I became the first unanimously elected Prime Minister of Pakistan when the country was beginning to transition to democracy. It was time of great fear and apprehension with the systematic dismantling of democratic institutions by the previous regime, a global economic recession and a divided country. By the grace of Allah, the leadership of my party and the strength of my convictions, we steadied the ship. I've been asked to speak on the role of political leaders in safeguarding civil rights. In recent years, there have been acute challenges to constitutionalism and rule of law in Pakistan and in the region, a subject discussed at length at this conference. Rule of law, democratic principles, and respect for fundamental rights have been under relentless assault in many countries in South Asia. These have been deliberate attempts by dangerous populists to sow a discord, to cause conflict, to polarize society and institutions through politics of hate and violence. The only solution to a constitutional crisis is constitutional supremacy. The only solution to the crisis of holding fundamental rights is democracy. Political parties are the engine of train of democracy. Throughout our history, dictatorships have been afraid of political leaders, political parties, and the power of political parties and leaders to organize people, to give them a voice, to give them a direction, and have attempted to clamp down on them. The dictatorships of the past damaged our political culture and democracy and created a new class of non-ideological and opportunistic politicians who were not bound by party manifestos, disciplines, and ethos. Political parties provide a people an opportunity to hold politicians accountable both at the individual level by the constituency and at the collective level by the party. Syed Zulfikar Ali Bhutto created a party based on the values of democracy, equality, freedom of human rights. Syed Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and Shaheed Mohtarma Benazir Bhutto created a cadre of political workers who were trained in democratic politics and how to understand the rights and responsibilities of upholding the fundamental rights, particularly as the party was a party that gave the Constitution of 1973. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, Shaheed Mohtarma Benazir Bhutto, President Zardari, and myself and thousands of PPP workers paid a heavy price for this commitment to the people, to democracy and fundamental rights. They were executed, assassinated, flogged, and imprisoned. This journey of sacrifice and examples of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, yes please, and Shaheed Mohtarma Benazir Bhutto has made the PPP worker what is it today. Courageous, critical, thinker, and fearlessly loyal. I wear it as a badge of honor, and that during my term as the longest serving Prime Minister of Pakistan, there were no political prisoner and no persecution of political opponents. I was the first Prime Minister to create a human rights ministry and provided with all the support necessary. I was also the first Prime Minister to create a Ministry of Interfaith Harmony and to recognize the historic speech of Quaid-e-Azam on August 11 that gave the vision of tolerant and egalitarian Pakistan. I declared August 11 as a minority day to remind ourselves the promise made by Quaid. This manifesto, the ideology and training is what distinguishes a political party working towards upholding democratic rights from the mob. One of the most serious challenges to democracy around the world at the moment is authoritarian populism. Leaders who lie to people, who incite violence, who seek to create division and polarization, who have no ideology and no agenda beyond that of self-interest for themselves or for the destruction of everyone else. From Modi in India to far-right parties in Europe to Pakistan, there is a relentless assault on the principles of constitutional supremacy, democratic accountability, and of tolerance, threatening to besiege and attack capitals, whether it is in Islamabad or Washington, D.C., by inciting violence and hatred is not the work of political leader or a party. It is bullying and not politics. They want the civility and democratic norms in politics to be replaced by hysteria and abuse. The despots wreaks havoc and not only our politics and our society, but also on our institutions, our economy, and our foreign policy. The lack of coherent foreign policy by the previous regime was driving us towards international isolation and extraordinary sacrifice in the war against violent extremism were going unacknowledged. Political parties provide nurseries and training for government. Those who seek to build cults instead of democratic political parties, once propelled and selected into power, only prove destructive. The people of Pakistan, through their experience of history, recognize demagogues, and those who seek to impose fascism upon us. We were not granted democracy and freedom on a platter. We attained it with our blood, the blood of political leaders and thousands of committed political workers. I spent years in prisons for committing no crime other than standing by my principles of my party. Today, the Democrats have responsibility to protect our Constitution, our democracy against a torrent of abuse and falsehood. Democratic political parties need to be at the forefront of this. Political leaders and political parties are the glue that binds the political aspirations of the people from small villages to power corridors of Islamabad. And I think the link between government, parliament, and workers, farmers, students, trade unions, lawyers, and civil society. Our judiciary today also has a responsibility. The rule of law is soul of democratic system. The judiciary has the responsibility to inspire confidence that justice will be done, that everyone will be treated fairly and fundamental rights will be upheld. Sadly, in the past, our judiciary has failed to inspire this confidence. However, we have a great hope that judiciary is now looking inwards to reform and start the journey towards equitable, constitutional, and justice system where the courts decide based on the law. The challenges that we face are enormous. However, we'll live to overcome them in even greater. The answer has always lied in more democracy, more political participation, more ideological commitment. We have prevailed in the past, and inshallah, we will prevail again. The best tribute to Asma Jahangir is to follow in her footsteps and fight for the constitutional supremacy, equality, and democracy. This is a debt that we owe to Shaheed Mohtarama Benazir Bhutto and Asma and other democratic political leaders who spent their lives in this fight. Inshallah, we will succeed. Thank you very much. Pakistan Zindabad.
Thank you very much, Chairman Senate, Janab Yusuf Raza Gilani, for honoring us and for coming to this event and for gracing this event. I also want to thank Voicepk, which I forgot. And you can follow all the sessions on Voicepkdotnet, because I know some of you wanted to see the sessions but could not, so you can watch it on Voicepkdotnet. And I think with this concluding session, I would like to thank all the speakers who made time from their extremely busy schedules to come here and speak to us on this very hard topic. Thank you so much for your wisdom, and thank you so much to all of you, to Lahore, for always taking part in the Asma Jahangir conference. Till next year, Khuda Hafiz.